The inception of the Premier League brought with it a period of Manchester United-shaped domination. Sir Alex Ferguson's side won the inaugural Premier League and didn't look back as the decade progressed. The club's success was largely thanks to what I consider Ferguson's first squad revamp that brought through the class of '92 and was led by Eric Cantona. By the end of the millennium, Ferguson's men had racked up 5 league titles, 3 FA Cups and the Champions League. The ultimate cherry on the cake came when United won England's first ever treble in 1999. The year 2000 didn't spell a change of fortunes, but United's tight grip on English football was beginning to loosen. They began the decade with 2 successive league titles, then in 2002, for the first time in 7 years, the club went trophyless. This was unusual as United had made a number of high-profile signings in the summer and Sir Alex had began the process of squad revamping, getting rid of Jaap Stam, Dennis Irwin and Andy Cole. Ideas of a power shift to London were becoming legitimate as United began the next season poorly and sat in 5th after 14 games. Despite an improvement in form, by the beginning of March, the time when the favourites for the league usually emerge, bookmakers were starting to pay out bettors backing Arsenal to retain the Premier League. In classic fashion, United won their last 9 out of 10 games with their only draw on the run coming against Arsenal away. This led the Red Devils to their 13th league title and their 8th in the Premier League era. This would be the last title United won before they were forced to acknowledge that the competition in England was becoming tougher. Sir Alex Ferguson and United continued the revamping project, getting rid of experienced players like David Beckham and Fabian Barthez while bringing in promising players like Eric Jemba Kleberson and Cristiano Ronaldo. Unfortunately for the club, the only silverware they came away with that season was the FA Cup. They were also knocked out of the Champions League in the round of 16 and eliminated in the 4th round of the FA Cup. In the league though, they were completely outclassed by their rivals Arsenal. Arsenal got 90 points compared to United's 75, but more importantly, Arsenal went ahead and made history by becoming the first team of the Premier League era and the first in over 100 years to go unbeaten all season in the English top flight. This was significant because, for all of Manchester United's success and achievement since the 90s, they had never managed this particular prestigious feat. Logically, Ferguson was intent on eclipsing Arsenal's achievement and possibly even being the one to end the unbeaten run. They continued their policy of refreshing their squad, bringing in Rooney, Rossi and Piqué while letting go of Nicky Butt. United managed to end Arsenal's 49-game unbeaten run in a match that came to be known as the Battle of the Buffet. That would be the highlight of the season, however, as United were knocked out of Europe in the round of 16 and eliminated by Chelsea in the semi-final of the League Cup. To top it all off, United lost the FA Cup final to Arsenal in penalties. This match was a huge wake-up call for Ferguson. For the first time in the Premier League era, Man United had failed to win the league for 2 consecutive seasons, gone trophyless, and finished 18 points behind champions Chelsea. Going into the next season, the club switched up its transfer policy slightly, bringing in 24-year-old Park Ji-sung and 35-year-old Edwin van der Sar. As with previous years, they got rid of experienced players who were no longer assets for the club like Phil Neville and Roy Keane. There was an improvement in fortunes as United finished 2nd in the league and won the League Cup after signing Nemanja Vidic and Patrice Evra midway through the season, but the club finished bottom of their group in the Champions League and were knocked out of the FA Cup by Liverpool. More concerningly, it was the 3rd season in a row without a league title. United hadn't experienced a drought like this since going 26 years without winning the trophy. And while it would take a drastic change in events for the club to experience another mega drought like that, the rise of Chelsea under Abramovich and the constant improvement of Liverpool under Benitez meant it wasn't inconceivable that United might go 5 or even 10 years without the league. Ferguson knew United had to act, and that's exactly what they did. Carrick was the only signing of the summer of 2006, but Ferguson got rid of the last of his go-to guys, Ruud van Nistelrooy. Van Nistelrooy had been benched by Ferguson, which led to a falling out between the two. That falling out was enough to warrant the departure of the Dutch striker to Real Madrid. Now the team was ready for a new era of success. The youngsters who had been brought in over the last few years were now coming into their prime, and the squad now had the perfect balance of youth and experience. It wasn't long before Ferguson's side were back playing the United way, with Ronaldo and Giggs bombing down the wings and Scholes and Carrick patrolling the middle of the park. Manchester United dominated the league that year and sat at the top of the pile for 36 out of 38 match days. They won the league with 89 points and scored 11 more goals than the previous season while conceding 7 less. They also reached the semi-final of the Champions League but fell at the last hurdle in the FA Cup. It had been a great season for the Red Devils, but not a perfect one. Ferguson knew his side could do even better. United didn't rest on their laurels and took the opportunity to strengthen a winning team. They signed Anderson and Nani for a combined £30 million and brought in experienced midfielder Owen Hargreaves to provide competition in that part of the field. They also brought in Argentinian striker Carlos Tevez on a 2-year loan. United started the season positively with the Community Shield, but they got to a slow start in the league. After getting no wins in the first 3 games of the season, United went on an 8-game winning run that took them to the top of the league. United wrestled with Arsenal for a top spot over the next 6 months, but spent the last 9 weeks of the season in first place. The season would get even better though, as Manchester United took on domestic rivals Chelsea in the final of the Champions League. United had reached the final with no defeats and a single goal conceded in the knockout stage. They came up against a Chelsea side that had sacked Jose Mourinho midway through the season, lost the Community Shield, lost in the League Cup final, and finished as runners-up in the league. The team United faced in the final was determined to salvage what had been a truly disappointing season. The game got off to a very cagey start before Ronaldo broke the deadlock with a header. United continued to create chances that they were unable to capitalize on until Frank Lampard equalized on the stroke of half-time. Chelsea dominated for the majority of the second half, but the scoreline remained the same. Extra time was not enough to separate the two sides, despite Lampard hitting the bar and Ryan Giggs having a shot cleared off the line. Only penalties would decide who would become European champions. After 2 successful penalties for each side, Ronaldo stepped up to the penalty spot for United. He missed after a stutter just before the shot, and now Chelsea were in the driving seat. Tragically for Chelsea, captain John Terry missed the penalty that would have given Chelsea their first European Cup. It was now sudden death. Anderson and Giggs scored their penalties before a nervous Nicolas Anelka had his penalty saved by Edwin van der Sar. Manchester United were champions of Europe. The trophy, which was the second under Alex Ferguson, capped off what had been an incredible season. United had retained the league, won the Champions League, and only been stopped from winning the treble by a shock defeat to Portsmouth in the FA Cup. It had also been a season which saw individual players flourish, as Rooney, Ronaldo and Tevez formed a lethal attack, while Anderson and Nani proved they could be vital assets for years to come. The team's standout player, Ronaldo, had an outstanding season, scoring 42 goals in all competitions and winning the Premier League Golden Boot. This success brought with it a lot of unwanted attention as far as United and Ferguson were concerned, as Florentino Perez made it his #1 mission to bring Cristiano Ronaldo to Real Madrid. Despite the interest and Ronaldo's desire to leave, Ferguson managed to convince him to stay for 1 more year. In pre-season, United strengthened once again, signing Dimitar Berbatov from Tottenham for £30 million. They also brought in twins Fabio and Rafael to provide cover at fullback. Man United had another great season, although they did start with 2 defeats in the Community Shield and the Super Cup. The team's attack, containing Rooney, Ronaldo, Tevez, Berbatov and Nani, didn't hit their stride until United faced West Brom in October, in a game that United won 4-0. Come December, United had strung a few results together and sat in third. Next up was a chance to win the Club World Cup. After a 5-3 win over Gamba Osaka in the semi-final, United beat Ecuadorian side LDU Quito in the final by a goal to 0. With a nice piece of silverware secured, United set their sights on a historic quadruple. After a goalless draw with Spurs away, United went on a 12-game winning streak that took them to the top of the table. In the middle of this run, they picked up trophy #1 as they beat Tottenham on penalties in the League Cup final. During the run, Van der Sar broke the Premier League record for consecutive games with a clean sheet and minutes without conceding. His run and United's eventually came to an end as United succumbed to a 4-1 defeat at home to fierce rivals Liverpool. Another defeat in the next game meant that dreams of a quadruple are now looking in jeopardy. United showed nerves of steel to win 8 out of the last 9 games and win their 18th league title, matching Liverpool. Unfortunately, the quadruple dream came to an end as United lost to Everton in the semi-final of the FA Cup on penalties. Still, a treble of sorts was still on, with a Champions League final against Barcelona looming. United had cruised to the final with no defeats once again, and a statement victory over Arsenal in the second leg of the semi-final. The team they came up against in the final was a different class though. Barcelona were looking to become the first Spanish team to win the treble and prevent United from becoming the first team to defend the Champions League title. The match was highly anticipated, but Barcelona showed the gulf in quality between the two sides as they cruised to a 2-0 victory over Ferguson's side. The match was important as it spelled the end of the unstoppable success of Ferguson's second squad revamp. That summer, Ronaldo finally left for Real Madrid while Tevez signed for local rivals Man City after the end of his loan. In the years to come before Sir Alex retired, United won 2 league titles and went trophyless twice. The manner in which they lost the league in 2012 was most probably the wake-up call Ferguson needed to realize that he wasn't able to oversee another squad revamp before his retirement. Ferguson finally retired after delivering United's 20th league title with a team that was aging and lacking in quality. Although many believe his 13th and final title was his most impressive feat, I am of the opinion that Ferguson reinventing a side for the second time during the period of English dominance in Europe is Sir Alex's greatest achievement.